Hello, my name is Chris Asaro, and I am president of Holt Construction. Holt Construction is one of the country's leading builders, and we are especially recognized for our work in the aviation sector with a large portfolio in the Northeast as well as across the country. We have been working at Newark Liberty International Airport for over 30 years, and our offices at the airport are always open to you. Holt is very committed to diversity and including small and local businesses, especially MWBEs, local businesses, and veteran-owned businesses in our projects. Our work also supports local residents to help them build a career in construction. This year, we have launched a new program, Building Newark Airport Together. That features special sessions every Friday, noon to 1 p.m. These sessions provide you with important information about contract and career opportunities and will open the gate to building your business and your career with us. Today, our Opportunity Friday session examines a very important topic, building your safety plan for work on airport projects. Safety is our number one concern on all of our projects. As a small business, you need to know what your safety plan must include to meet our standards, as well as how to execute that plan when you are on a project. On today's session, you will meet members of Holt's safety team who will walk you through our safety protocols and requirements and what you need to do. Now, it's my pleasure to welcome your program host, Alexandria Parati, Holt's Director of Corporate Initiatives and Strategic Planning. Welcome, Alex.
Thanks, Chris. I'm Alexandria Parati, and I'm pleased to serve as your program host for our Opportunity Friday series. Opportunity Fridays are important sessions that will introduce you to what you need to know about working with Holt Construction, as well as the specific contract packages that are available for bidding on Newark's Terminal A. We also want local residents to learn more about how they can work with Holt Construction, as well as on our airport projects. As an organization, Holt is truly committed to building Newark Airport together. Each of our Opportunity Friday sessions are devoted to a specific topic and include an opportunity for live questions and answers. At the end of each informational session, we will review direct contract opportunities that you may be interested in bidding once you have pre-qualified with us. So let's get started with today's session, Building Your Safety Plan. Now, before we get to our questions, let's start with a quick slideshow given by our panel and hopefully answer some of your initial questions. Ed, can you start?
Yes, thank you, Alex. First of all, you must meet all OSHA requirements. That includes HAZCOM, your Hazard Communication Program, fall protection, fire protection, very important, electrical safety, ladder safety, and most of all, personal protective equipment or PPE. We also have to keep in mind that the new OSHA ETS regarding the COVID protocols, if and when it's enacted, that you're prepared for that. So, Jason?
Each contractor must have a qualified, competent person who's authorized by one of the company's officers on the project whenever work is being performed on site. No work can be performed on site without a competent person. We have allowed an alternate competent person to be designated by each subcontractor. Roland?
All right, thank you, Jason. So part of your health and safety plan must include protocols regarding COVID in accordance with CDC and state mandates. The competent person is required to enforce these protocols for their company. Ed, back to you.
Thank you, Roland. You will be required to participate in a program that we have. It's called Skill Signal. Along with Skill Signal, it has the COVID questionnaire, as well as the project orientation for the specific project. The orientation training also has the COVID questionnaire and is able to trace if there is any positives that are found while you're on the job. So it's important that you are involved with our Skills Signal software program. To you, Jason.
Contractors must identify the hazards inherent into their work and provide a project or site-specific mitigation plan addressing those hazards along with the job hazard analysis to be enforced by their competent person. Roland?
In addition to, you must include a weekly toolbox talk and the report signed by all of the employees present on the job site. Ed?
Your plan must identify who will perform safety audits for their company on a weekly basis. To you, Jason.
Contractors must read the MSA and ask questions regarding safety requirements that they have agreed to.
Jason, let's start with the first question with you. How is the safety plan or the Hasp related to the pre-qualification process?
It's a great question, Alex. The safety plan is one of the most important keys in our pre-qualification process. We're looking to see what the EMR of our subcontractors are to ensure that their safety plan is going to provide for a safe job site.
That was great, Jason. Now, Ed, the next question is for you. I know you touched on it when we did the slideshow, but what documents are needed for the Hasp? What are the key components of the Hasp?
Thank you, Alex. The most important is to answer all the questions that are on the submission that you put in. For the documents that we look for, first of all, is a safety program that has all your policies in it. And those policies must be OSHA compliant. Okay, and how you train your staff to those policies. Okay, so it's important that all of that is in that document, number one. Number two, the EMR verification. Your insurance company, at no cost to you, can provide a letter that verifies your EMR rating. It's most important that we know over the past 5 years that the safety program that you've submitted is backed up by the EMR, which shows the amount of accidents and how you've handled them and the rating that you have. The rating is important for us, so it also indicates your safety culture. So that's most important. That's answered. The COVID policy, as of right now, the pandemic, the new that we're all sitting on waiting for the new OSHA ETS. We want to make sure that you're in tune with what's going on with the pandemic, that you're following the CDC guidelines, and that your competent person can enforce them. The competent person, that's one of the questions that you'll see there, needs to have at least 5 years of supervisory experience and a minimum of OSHA 30. Okay, and that person is the one who's going to enforce or knows your program the best and can enforce your safety culture.
Okay, so Ed, I have a couple of follow-up questions for you. What happens if a company is a brand new company and maybe they don't have an EMR yet? Well, how do they fill out the form if they don't have an EMR or if it's not available to them at this point in time? What do you suggest they do?
Great question. I suggest you go to your insurance company. They will write that. They will say that you are not, you haven't had a rating yet, and you include that, and we will take that into consideration.
Okay, so all they have to do is go to their insurance company, which everybody has, and get a letter, and then they upload that letter into our system so that you can see that.
Okay.
Next follow-up question is a competent person, right? Do they have to hire an outside source for that? Can it be an internal person? What is a competent person? Because I've had that question a lot, and some contractors think that they have to hire a safety consultant or they have to hire a special person to do this. What is a competent person to you, Ed? What are you looking for?
I'm looking for a competent person that knows your trade, that knows the work and the hazards that are inherent in your trade. For instance, an electrician, you know they're going to be using ladders a lot, or possibly baker scaffolds, okay? I want to know that you have a person that has supervisory experience and authority and can safely enforce those hazards that are on a site-specific safety plan, which is something else that you must have once awarded a whole project. So it's important that that person is most familiar with the hazards and how to mitigate those hazards and how to see potential hazards. So that competent person should be well-versed in those hazards that are inherent in their trades.
Great. Now, Roland, we haven't heard from you yet, so let's give you the next question. When you're walking out of a job onto a job site as a safety professional, what are things that you look for? What are things that contractors should have so that they're in compliance with the Holt safety requirements? What do you look for when you walk out on a job site from a sub?
So the first and foremost thing that I'm looking for is if they're abiding by their site-specific health and safety plan. And what I mean is I'm looking for focus 4 hazards. And those focus 4 hazards are falls, electrocutions, struck by, caught in, or between hazards. And if it is evident that there is hazards present and the subcontractor isn't doing anything to mitigate or protect themselves, that's a red flag, and automatically we're going to be asking questions. And those questions are going to refer back to your Hasp. Why are you not abiding by it? What can you do differently to mitigate these hazards, and how quickly and promptly can we get them done? Those are the first and foremost things that we're looking for.
Great. So then when you find a sub that's in violation, what does that mean as far as when you're walking on site? What do you do? How do they mitigate those? How much time do they have to mitigate that problem? Do you give them opportunity to mitigate the problem? How does that all work?
Absolutely, Alex. That's a great point. So what we do is first and foremost, we stop the work, and then we have a conversation. We'll discuss with them, what's going on, what are the processes here? Have we done a JSA today? Why is it that this hazard has arisen? Why is it present at this moment in time? And we do give them a 24-hour period to correct the hazard. And if they do fail to correct their hazard, Holt, as the prime contractor, will step in per the MSA contract, and we will supply the correct safeguards at a cost.
Great. Now, Jason, as a project manager back in the day, I've seen you as a superintendent back in the day do Toolbox Talks. So what are Toolbox Talks, and why are they important for us to have? Who prepares them? Who holds them? What are all of those things that the site supers, the Holt site supers, do every day to help make sure that safety is at the forefront of all of our projects?
Another good question, Alex. So yes, what we do in the field is the Holt superintendents will compile weekly reports of Toolbox Talks. Each contractor is responsible to perform at least a weekly Toolbox Talk with their staff, have it signed by their workers, and turned over to the Holt superintendent for record. We then use that information, compile our files, and we could assess that they are carrying out their safety plan that they've submitted to us, and they are remaining compliant. We also have an additional step that if a safety officer or a superintendent or a competent person from another subcontractor flags an issue, we will have a safety stand down immediately, where we will conduct a brief analysis of what happened, what corrective measures are needed to be done, and a quick Toolbox Talk will be signed on that topic, and that will be placed in the files as well.
Great. So for all three of you gentlemen, we're all talking about aviation, and you all have vast experience in the aviation industry with safety and with working on site. So someone that has never worked in an airport environment, certain things can arise, right? Like you could get a passenger that could wander into your barricade, or you can get, there are airplanes, you're working next to an airplane. There's a lot of heavy equipment. There's a lot of requirements. I'm going to go to each one of you. If you could just give me certain nuances, things that you've seen occur in an airport environment that someone who's new should be aware of. So Ed, can you start something specific to an airport project that people should be looking at safety-wise?
Yeah, coming from the same background as you and Jason, and I have extensive construction experience in the aviation throughout all the major airports. And I can tell you from my experience, the biggest issue we have is making sure that not only the airport staff who normally they can get in and out of everywhere, even where you're working, that they are protected, and that we have a policy in place where we know that they're on site. But airport staff are notorious for going wherever they want to go, and they could wander into a dangerous area. And when it comes when somebody wanders into your work area and you're not aware of it, they can actually cause an accident with one of the trades by not being in the right place at the right time. Secondly, passengers. Those, especially that if their flight is delayed, have nothing to do, they start wandering around and their curiosity gets to them. So in some of the barricades, what we used to do is put, and they have to be at least 8 foot high, as you know, and we used to put peepholes so they could look, but they were out of there. And the maintaining security was huge, at any time, because if you have an open door, they're going to walk in, they're just going to look around. Okay, so those that are not familiar with construction and construction activities are one of the first, and I'm going to say fear that I have, especially as a superintendent, that they walk into an area and create a safety hazard just by being there. So that's one, and I'm sure Jason and Roland can expound on that.
Jason, would you like to give us one?
Alex, it's on the construction side of it. We are used to, in the construction industry, mitigating risk to our workers, our subcontractors. When working in an airport, you need to be very cognizant of the literally millions of passengers that pass through that facility annually. There has to be, those passengers do not have PPE. They are passengers in a terminal. You need to be aware with your safety plan of what's going on inside your construction area and what can occur on the outside of your construction area caused by an accident or an incident inside your area.
Great. Roland, do you have one that you can offer for us?
Of course, and to piggyback on Ed and Jason's points, the barricade is most important, ensuring that it is maintained and up at all times. Also, making sure that we are accounting for all of our tools inside the airport. We have a tool management list most of the times working in the airports, and escorting is another big one, making sure that you're accounting for all your employees who are not badged for that specific airport. And lastly, sharp metal objects, whether it's a knife, a razor blade, or any type of tool that can be used for cutting, those must be secured at all times, and all tools must be stowed away inside the airport's facility because of the amount of foot traffic that is coming through who are unauthorized personnel.
Right. And Jason, with what Roland said about sharps and sharp tools, we and our subcontractors have to have those items specifically inside our barricade locked, but inside their toolbox is locked too. And they have to have a list and keep accounting for them. And those are sometimes checked, Jason?
Correct, Alex. TSA will random audit job sites. They will knock on the barricades. We allow them to enter for inspection purposes. We will cease construction activity to make the area safe for them to walk in. They will walk in. Dealing with a Newark project like this, Port Authority police are allowed to enter the barricades. They will maybe notify or maybe not notify. We'll get a knock on the door. When that happens, yes, they will come in and verify tool lists are correct. They're not open Sawzall blades that are left unaccompanied or away from a work area where a passenger could get them. So yes, we have to be vigilant of that working in a secure facility.
Right. And not only are we, if something is left out or if something is, not locked up, something sharp that can be taken by someone used for nefarious purposes, whatever it may be, there are financial problems that happen if that occurs, right, Jason? There are fines that the airport gives. There are reasons for all of these safety protocols that we put into place. It's not just because we want to do it. It's because the airport does require it. And we want everyone to go home safe. We want you all to go home with your families at night. We want everyone that walks through that terminal to know that they're safe and everyone on an airplane is safe. So thank you, gentlemen. I think these questions were great. Ed, I do have 2 follow-up questions for you. I know that you said about safety culture, and Holt is a family-owned company, and we talk about that a lot. But when you say you're looking at a company's safety culture, what do you mean by that?
What I mean is that their safety program, that their policies are enforced and are in tune with mitigating the risks, recognizing potential hazards, and knowing what to do to mitigate those hazards. The biggest part of safety culture is, and I'm going to say this, it's as corny as it sounds, is that none of us is as strong as all of us. So by having their culture fit into our culture that we're promoting today and every day, by fitting into our culture, that all of us are creating a workplace that is free of hazards to the best of our ability. And by reinforcing the Toolbox Talks, the stand downs that you heard about, the MSA, which you've heard about, all of those contribute to a good safety culture or a safe workplace. And that's all we're after. And we want each contractor to practice what they put in writing and what they've agreed to. And that all adds to that safety culture. And I think that so far we've been fortunate. We've had some very, very good contractors, and we are very good at helping those that we feel have potential in making their program better. So again, safety culture is not just the word that, okay, it's a culture we created. It's a team effort to make sure that everybody goes home safe.
That's great. And I think that all of us here at Holt and all of our panelists, we are all so lucky to have you, Ed, leading our health and safety programs. Can you tell us a little bit more about how an individual contractor who may not have a formal Hasp, how do they connect with you and your safety team to bring themselves up to speed with what we're looking for, as well as, maybe coaching them a little bit to help them through the Holt pre-qualification process? Are you accessible? Can people talk to you? Are you available for questions?
Absolutely. And one of the questions on there is, who represents the safety for your company? If I have a question when I'm doing a pre-qualification, as does Roland, we will actually call you and ask, okay, you've stated this, but how do you enforce that? And you'd be surprised at how many companies we've actually helped. I have a reservoir of companies that can also help any company develop their safety program. I will, help coach them in that direction, as well as what we're looking for. Because many times people will answer the questions that are on there and not really understand what the question's about. And I found that by talking to them and coaching them a little bit, they get the message and they redesign or resubmit with the verbiage that's needed, and they get the understanding. And I have 3 companies in mind right now that we helped, and they are doing fantastic because they know that culture is not only good for their workers, but it's good for that culture that we spoke about, and that by everybody synchronized on the same page, it works, and we all support each other.
Yep. And having a good safety program is really good for your insurance. It's good for your insurance rates. It's something that a lot of companies look at. So one quick follow-up question, Jason, for you. I know we've been talking about the Hasp and we've been talking about the pre-qual, and some questions have come in with new companies have asked us, what's the difference between their Hasp that they submit when they pre-qualify and their site-specific safety plan that they owe once they receive a contract from Holt to work on a project? What is the difference?
So the Hasp is what's used by Ed, Roland, our legal or insurance carrier for pre-qualification purposes. That's going to describe your overall blanket statement of your internal safety plan. We require a site-specific safety plan, which is not the entire Hasp. It is targeted towards that one project with the hazards that you feel you may encounter on that project and how you are going to mitigate those. So what it is almost an appendix to your corporate Hasp that is project specific.
Great. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us today. Now, before we go to the live Q&A and answer all of your additional questions that you might have, let's go through the current opportunities from Holt Construction for Newark's new Terminal A. Good afternoon, and thank you all for joining us again. Let's go through the current opportunities for Newark's new Terminal A. Project number 1. Estimated schedule is April 2022 to December of 2024. It is a 60,000 square foot ground up construction interior installation. Within this scope of work are the following trades: scaffolding and protection, cleaning and labor, fence construction, heavy site work, civil, site prep, utilities, driven piles, foundations, concrete work, demolition of existing site, masonry of the exterior, roof, masonry interior level, stair shafts and elevators, structural steel and decking, millwork packages, miscellaneous metals and ornamental steel, roof guard railings, wall panels and louvers, curtain wall systems, doors, exterior doors and interior doors, frames, hardware, floodgates, fire curtains, windows, skylights, drywall, ceiling systems, tile and stone, terrazzo flooring, painting, walls and ceilings, wall coverings, elevator glass, elevator service, escalators, sprinkler systems, plumbing, HVAC, electrical and fire alarm, security, substation equipment, garbage debris removal, and soil export truck hauling. That is project number 1. Project number 2 that is currently out for bid, estimated construction schedule April 2022 to November of 2024. This is a 35,000 square foot club and terminal fit out. Within this package are the following scopes of work: existing conditions demolition, concrete, metals, ornamental metals, wood, plastics, and composites, thermal and moisture protection, openings for windows and doors, drywall, ceiling systems, tile and stone, floorings, carpet, VCT base, terrazzo flooring, painting, millwork packages, specialties, storefront, signage and branding, fire suppression, plumbing, HVAC, electric and electronic safety and security. Project number 9. Estimated schedule is February of 2022 to July of 2020. That is the construction schedule. This is a 7,300 square foot lounge. Within this package are the following trades: steel, carpentry, millwork, custom and casework, toilet partitions, flooring, which includes carpet, tile, and resilient flooring, signage and graphics, glass, plumbing, mechanical, electric, fire alarm, and sprinkler. The last project that I'm going to live go over with you all today is Project 10. This is a 6,000 square foot airline CTI space, which is a support space for the airlines. Within this project are the following scopes of work: concrete and masonry, flood barriers, carpentry packages, millwork and casework, toilet partitions, flooring, which includes carpet, tile, terrazzo, resilient flooring, signage and graphics, plumbing, HVAC, fire alarm, sprinkler, and security escorting. Please keep checking our Opportunity Fridays website. We'll have our consultants put it in the chat for you all at www.diversityagenda.com/EWRTA. On that website for all of these opportunities, you will see the bid dates and the projected bid dates if they have not been released yet. While I welcome back my panelists, let me reintroduce all of you to Ed Cross, Holt Safety Director, Roland Leal, Senior Safety Manager for Holt, and Jason Spector, our Director of Field Operations. Welcome, gentlemen. Thank you for joining us today.
Good afternoon.
Thank you,
Now,
Alex.
before we get to our questions, let me ask one quick question, which I know we went over, Ed, but just to reiterate, if a company is brand new, what do they do if they don't have an EMR rating? Can you go over that one more time for us live?
Sure. First of all, when we go over the pre-qualifications, that's one of the questions that needs to be answered. Some of the newer companies that have not been in business that long have not established an EMR yet. It takes up to 3 years. What we want to know is that your insurance company can verify that you not only have just started, but that you aren't eligible for one. Okay, now that does not mean that you're not going to get qualified. What it means is that we know two things: one, that you're pretty new in the business, and two, that your insurance company believes that you're going to do very well and that you are insured. So those two items are one of the things that that we look for. And those companies that do have an EMR, that's a whole different story, but we can get into that again later.
So Roland, another question that we have in the chat is there a template that I can use to develop my Hasp? So I know that, it could be a daunting task. People don't know how many things they have to include. Is there a template that they can access or something to help them, guide them through creating their Hasp?
Yes, Alex, that's a great question. So you can definitely find things on the OSHA website for small employers if you're new to creating these types of documents. And so there's a bunch of resources that you can use off there. Obviously, there's third-party safety professionals who can offer those services as well, that you can find those things. But I would definitely take a look at the OSHA website, most definitely.
Great. Jason, the next question for you. Does a company need to have a Hasp in order to pre-qualify with Holt Construction?
Yes, they do. We take your safety plan as part of your pre-qualification through our system.
Okay, and Ed, if anyone has any direct questions while they're completing their Hasp, are you accessible? Can they reach out to you for questions? Can they reach out to Roland?
Yes, they can reach out to normally when I go through a pre-qual for a new company, we always look for a contact person for safety. And many times it's not in there, which makes it a little bit more difficult for us to get in touch with them. But the ones that do put that down, I have no problem, as does Roland, in calling them to go over their program. One of the things that we found is that many times they don't even have a program, or they're not sure what they need to do to establish one. And as Roland said, which was a very good point, the third party. I know for Newark and the New York area, we've used Certified Site Safety, and they have given us, not only we use them as a consultant, but we also use them to help man our jobs. This is one of the companies that we would suggest that they get in touch with to help them with the Hasp. They're pretty much in tune with what we do and the Hasp and what we look for. So we also not only offer that coaching, but offer other avenues for them to take in order to help establish that program.
Right. But aside from hiring a consultant, if a subcontractor is filling out their Hasp, they have some questions, can we issue your email address so that they can ask you questions directly, Ed? And I know that you have done one-on-ones with our brand new subcontractors as well, so that you can give them one-on-one coaching through their Hasp and answer any questions for them live, right?
Yes. Yes.
And then if anyone in the audience would like a one-on-one session with us regarding their Hasp, our consultant will put our email address in the chat, but I will give it to you live. It is ewrta@holtcc.com. Just send an email to that. That is the same email address where you request your pre-qual package. So just send an email right to that address and say you would like to have some help with your Hasp. And we will put you in touch with Ed, and we will schedule you for a live one-on-one meeting with Ed, because it is very important that you have a Hasp. If you are a new company, if you're new to aviation, or you're new to working on big projects, all big projects require a Hasp, a health and safety plan. You all need it. So we are offering you the free help right now to guide you and have you create that Hasp so you have it ready for not only for Terminal A, for any project that you work on. A Hasp is for your whole company. So once you have it, all you're doing is updating it. So it's a very, very great opportunity that we're giving everyone. So make sure you afford yourselves of that. The next question I have, let me read it. This is a long one. Does Holt have, this one's going to be for you, Spectre. Does Holt have a digital health and safety and compliance solution for Holt and subcontractors to capture high-risk areas of work, digital inspections, and safety observations?
We do. We are actually a Procore company. We run with Procore. We have JHAs in Procore. We have Toolbox Talks, full inspection logs. Everything that we have is in our platform. Our superintendents will grant access to, and our safety personnel will grant access to whoever on those projects need it.
Great. Let's talk about Toolbox Talks a little bit, Roland. There is a question regarding Toolbox Talks. How are they handled? Are they daily? Are they weekly? Are they a Holt requirement? Does Holt do this Toolbox Talks and the subs attend them, or do the subs have their own? How does that all work out through on a project?
Sure. So we definitely have a nice mix of both. So we require them per our MSA that the subcontractor does furnish to us weekly Toolbox Talks. Us as a company and the prime contractor, we do weekly Toolbox Talks as well. And if they do not, your subcontractor does not perform those weekly Toolbox Talks, we will step in. Our superintendents will issue those on a weekly basis.
Great. Next question is going to be for you, Ed. I know this one is near and dear to your heart. Does my Hasp have to have a COVID-19 plan?
Of course. Yes. Right now, as everybody knows, COVID-19 is once again raging. So in terms of OSHA compliance, it's not only that we try to mitigate injury, it's illness as well. So even though politically there's been mandates that have been coming out, it really doesn't matter, because we, and especially your Hasp, must cover how you're going to, is this illness in particular, what methods you're going to take, what protocol to maintain that safety with which you're responsible for your employees.
So when we're talking about what they should have in their COVID-19 plan, it's what they do if someone on their team contracts COVID, how they notify us, how they notify, their own personnel. We want to see that they're proactive in that notification, how they mitigate their cleaning of their areas, their cleaning of their tools, to make sure that not only is the Holt job site safe, but the subcontractors keeping their work areas safe as well, correct?
That's correct, Alex, and that's all part of our orientations when they are awarded a job. It's also part of our skill signal program that Jason touched on. It's important that everyone recognizes their responsibility in helping to maintain a safe, healthful workplace.
Great. This question might have to be answered separately because I'm not exactly sure what this one means. So if I phrase this question improperly and I'm not getting to the gist of what you're looking for, send me an email at the EWRTA@holtcc.com email address, and I will get it over to Ed to address. But the question says, what if you don't have an EMR, but only have a DO not qualified letter from the board? I'm not sure what that is, but if
let me take a stab at that. I
okay.
think what the person is trying to say is that the compensation board has not given them an EMR yet.
There we go.
Okay, so what that indicates to me, once again, as we said before, it indicates to me that you're basically a new company. We want to make sure that you are insured, so we want a verification from your insurance company, regardless of the compensation board. We want to know that yes, you're not eligible at this point to establish an EMR. However, you do have insurance and you're covered. And and then once again, we look towards your programming and how you're going to, how you're going to enforce that. And the competent person, which is we lean a lot on your competent person. So all those are important factors. The EMR is just, we want to see an answer. We want to know that you're pursuing a good EMR, and that's all going to be spelled out in your company policy as well as your on-site safety program, as Jason mentioned.
Right. So we always have a lot of questions regarding the non-heavy construction trades, like the electricians and the plumbers and the HVAC guys. We all know that all our heavy trades, they all require OSHA 30 to work on our projects. I have OSHA 30. All of our project managers and supers have it. We are all OSHA certified. The question is as follows. We provide photography, as in photographic progress reports and documentation, graphic design, notary services. Would we need to get OSHA certified or trained? Jason, would you like to answer that? I know what the answer is, but if they are, so we'll bifurcate that question. If anyone, whatever they do, whatever trade, whether it be a photographer or an inspector or an electrician, do they all require OSHA certification?
OSHA certification, the answer is yes, 100%. The level of the certification is up to the safety department at Holt. Ed and Roland could fine tune and discuss with people who have questions about non-trade work, but entry to our sites, OSHA certification is required.
Roland, are there certain levels of OSHA certification?
Yes, of course. So in between the 10 and 30 hour, I think, especially with this question as it posed, it would be very beneficial to have either or of those trainings, only because depending on the progress of work that you're on, you could be encountering different machinery, different work tasks that may require a certain level of awareness that while you're taking a picture, you'll be prepared for.
Right. So because on some of our sites are quite large, and a photographer might be getting on a scaffold to take a picture of the entire job site. There are different parameters, construction photography. can be just as dangerous as being in the trade. So we want to make sure that everybody is qualified that walks on that job site so no one gets hurt and everybody goes home safe to their families every single night. Next question, Ed, this is a common question that we get. Does my competent person need additional training to serve in that role? So what kind of training does the competent person that a company selects, what kind of training do they need? Or are they the contact person? What is that training that you look for?
What we look for in a competent person is experience and a minimum of OSHA 30, 30-hour training. OSHA 10, as Roland mentioned, OSHA 10 is great for a beginning person just getting in the construction field. We require that for people that are going to be on site, such as the photographer that you were just speaking about, and for apprentice workers, workers that are coming on for the first time. And OSHA 10 is it's pretty heavy on the focus 4 that we always talk about and we look for in your Hasp. And that focus 4 has to do with the mitigating of the hazards that have caused the most fatalities or serious injuries. Okay, and OSHA 10 stays mainly on that. OSHA 30 is a little bit deeper into those 4 categories and the best way for you to enforce them on a job. So what we look for when we in that pre-qualification is that you have a minimum of 5 years of supervisory experience, meaning that you can manage people, and you have that OSHA 30 training that specializes in how to enforce the OSHA regulations and standards that apply to your trade, and that you can read and interpret the Hasp that your company has prepared based on their safety policies to enforce on that job in compliance and synchronized with the safety culture that we're looking to promote.
Great. Now, Roland, if a company or a person doesn't have OSHA, how do they get OSHA certification? Is there a website that they can go to? Do they have to hire a company? How do you get an OSHA certification?
That's a great question. So there's many avenues. Number one would be an online certification with OSHA 30. There's this online website called Click Safety, and you can get your OSHA certifications, whether it's 10 or 30 hours. You can also look into those third parties like Certified Site Safety, as we discussed, and most likely those professionals, they will offer those classes as well. You can also have someone in-house, whoever your safety professional is, with an OSHA 500, and they can provide that training as well.
Great. And Jason, do the unions offer that to their tradesmen, the OSHA certification? Can they go through the unions for that as well?
The benefit of the unions, all the union workers will come out to the job site with an OSHA 30 card. It's a requirement of your union book.
Great. Next question. Do I need a separate Hasp? This is going to be for you, Jason. Do I need a separate Hasp for every job my firm is working on? So it would not be a separate Hasp, right, Jason? It is, they give a Hasp for the whole company, and then you're going to give us a site safety plan specific to that job site that you're working on, correct, Jason?
Correct. You will have your Hasp in your pre-qual. You will prepare a site-specific safety plan that'll identify the risks that you are going to encounter on that one project.
Now, Jason, as the director of field operations, when you're looking at and your supers get the site safety plans for all of the subcontractors working on site, are there certain things that need to be included in that site-specific plan that you specifically look for?
There are. So we're depending on the scope of work, again, it varies. I mean, if it's a pipe fitter, a plumber, a welder, we're going to look for what their hot works policy is. Make sure it aligns with the jurisdiction that we're working in and the requirements of that. It could be anything. I mean, it's the word specific in that plan is specific to that task. It could be powder actuated tools. It could be electrical shock items. It could be fall protection. it's very specific, and we thoroughly review each and every one of them.
And if I can piggyback on that, Alex, Jason is 1000% correct. What we look for is that they assign a competent person that can see and enforce. They can not only see potential hazards that may not be in their site specific, but are capable of recognizing that and enforcing it or making a mitigating plan to protect their workers from that. So that competent person, once again, is most important when it comes to the site-specific plan that one is designated.
Great. Okay, next question. How do you capture the data related to hazards? Jason, how do we, I think you answered this one, but let's be a little more thorough on the answer. How do you capture the data related to hazards?
How do we capture the data related to hazards? Again, we take that under our JHAs, which are documents. They're hard copies or electronic, depending on how we're doing them. They're reviewed by the project teams. They're reviewed by the Holt safety managers that are out there, the competent person, and it becomes memorialized in our daily reports and as a project exhibit.
Great. Last question I have for today, and then you gentlemen are off to your weekend. Actually, I just got another one. What are the distributions requirements for a Hasp? Do I need to give a copy to everyone working on the site, or is having a copy accessible for review sufficient? Ed, would you like you're nodding your head? You want to answer that one?
Thank you. Yeah, what we look for is that your Hasp, prior to you mobilizing, at least 10 days before, once you've been given your letter of award, that your Hasp is submitted to the project manager that has invited you to bid and has given you the letter of award. That it's only one copy. That Hasp will be shared with the project team. Okay, so
and that's the specific job specific.
Job specific, right? Now, don't forget, when we pre-qualify, we have already looked at your safety policy manual. Okay, so we're not looking for, and we've gotten this more than a few times. We've gotten, and Roland, you can bear me out with this one. We've gotten a copy of the same thing that they pre-qualified with. That's 1,000 pages long. We don't want that. We want, and believe me, the longer it is, the less people are apt to read it. We want something that's specific to that job. It could be 4 pages long, 5 pages long, depending on what your work is going to be. But it's got to be specific to that, and it's got to name, the person that's going to be able to enforce it based on what you were pre-qualified with from your safety policies.
So if I could break that down into steps, right? So a company pre-qualifies with Holt Construction. Within their pre-qualification, their Hasp for their company is submitted with the pre-qual. Once they are given a contract, once they bid a project, you are the low bidder, and you are going to be awarded a contract, a subcontract with Holt Construction. At that time, you will submit us your job-specific insurance, a returned copy of your signed contract, and your site-specific plan. So your site, so we're going to say the Hasp itself is your big submission when you pre-qualify, and then your site-specific plan comes when you are awarded an actual contract on a project. If I made that totally clear for everybody.
Yep, that
Correct.
sounds very good.
So Ed, someone asked what an EMR was in the Q&A, but somebody already answered it. I was going to give it so I could get a gold star from you today, but somebody already answered it. The next question is, are there certifications specific to this industry that are required? So are there any certifications, Jason or Ed or Roland, whoever wants to take this one, that are specific to this industry, like we all need OSHA? Is there anything else that we all need besides OSHA?
I will touch on it because I'm going to kick this to the safety guys as well. We do. OSHA is required to get on site. However, depending on your scope of work, there may be applicable certifications that are required for you to perform those work. So Ed and Roland, if you want to go into some of those specific ones,
Sure.
have at it.
The first one that comes to mind, let's say you're involved with steel, structural steel. First thing that comes to mind is the operator. Normally with structural steel, a crane is involved. Once we hear the word crane, everybody's ears go up, and it's okay. We now have a dangerous piece of equipment that's going to be set up on this project.
Not only that, Ed, but there's a line of sight. There's all kinds of different things. You're working in an airport, so there's all different things, right?
And it's even more so in the airport. So thank you for bringing that up. But here's what's going to happen. You're going to have a qualified rigger. Which has to have the training to show that they're qualified. You're going to have a licensed crane operator. You're going to have a OSHA compliant signal person. Okay, now that's above and beyond any of the OSHA 30 requirements. It's required to do your specific job, okay, and that and your trade. That goes without saying in other trades as well. Steam fitters, Jason, as you know, steam fitters, welding certifications. In certain jurisdictions, you must be qualified to weld. If you're filling out a hot work permit at Newark, let's say, the first thing that the fire marshal is going to say before he issues that permit is, who's the qualified person that's going to be doing the welding? Does he have a fire watch? Is the fire watch person qualified? These are the things that they're going to look for. That's above and beyond OSHA 30. So there are many different ones. I'm not going to go into them all, but those are the ones that are specific that we deal with quite regularly. And Roland, if you can add to that, please do.
Sure. So whenever we're installing underground work, we're also going to be looking for operator cards, working that heavy machinery. We're also working from elevated platforms such as mobile scaffolding, aerial lifts, and stationary scaffolding. Erectors will need their certifications to erect and dismantle. And then the people working, depending on where your work area is and what region you're working in, the people working on the scaffold themselves will have to have some sort of certification for working on the scaffold. And then aerial lifts, scissor lifts, all those types of things will require certification as well.
Great. Roland, one last question for today. I'm going to give it to you. Is there a listing of everything that should be included in a company's Hasp? Is there a website that they can go to so that they have a clear list of everything that they should include if the Hasp is brand new to them? Because I know that, our own Hasp, Holt is a giant national company, so our own Hasp is like what Ed said, it's 1,000 pages long. But that's just because we are a huge company. Is there a website or somewhere they can go to get, guidance or, some kind of list?
Of course. So as mentioned before, the OSHA website will be your best friend. There's also the ANSI standards as well, in which that is more of a subscription and you will have to purchase those standards to comply. If you go through the OSHA website, you'll be looking at Focus 4 hazards. And essentially, you'll be wanting to abide by all of those rules in the subparts. And literally, if you go through each subpart on the OSHA website regarding construction standards and you utilize all of those in between, you can definitely come up with a very rigorous and very strict health and safety standards.
Great. That's our last question for this afternoon. I want to thank our panel for joining me today and answering all of your questions. Just a quick reminder, for pre-qualifications, or if you have any follow-up questions, please send us an email at ewrta@holtcc.com. I also invite all of you to join us next week. We have a great session on Newark Works and the Elizabeth Development Company. They will both be presenting live here for employment opportunities and how to get into their pre-apprenticeship program. So please join us again next Friday at 12 o'clock. Also, go to our website so you can see all of the current opportunities. That is in our chat. It's www.diversityagenda.com/EWRTA. All of our current opportunities are listed there, so there'll be more detail if I went a little fast. We also have all of our sessions up for February, so please make sure you register for something that's you're interested in. And if you have any questions, reach out to us. Our safety department is here to help you. If you're a little shy and you didn't get to ask your question, we're here and we'll answer anything you need. We all want you to come and work for us. So thank you all. It's a beautiful day outside. Have a great balance here Friday and a wonderful weekend. Thank you for joining us today.